U.S. online shoppers beware. Tax-free shopping could be ending soon. The U.S. Senate passed a bill today that could end tax-free shopping on the internet for the majority of U.S. shoppers. The bill would allow the states to require businesses with more than $1 million in revenue and out-of-state sales to collect taxes for the products they sell online. The collected sales taxes would then be sent to the states where the shopper lives. The bill now heads to the House, where it faces severe opposition from the lawmakers who might call it a tax hike. Joining us to talk more about this latest proposal, who is for it and who is against it, is John Arensmeyer. He's the founder and CEO of Small Business Majority. He joins us live from San Francisco. Thank you very much, sir, and welcome to Biz Asia America. Let's start with the vote right now. The Senate voted, they passed it, but everything that we've heard here in Washington, D.C., some is true, some is not, and the House most likely will vote it down. Is that what you're hearing?
Well, it's really pretty remarkable, Philip, and thanks for having me on, by the way, that this was a really bipartisan effort. I think the Republican vote was split almost 50-50, and there were Democrats on both sides of the bill. So this is really about leveling the playing field. It's about a tax that already exists. It's a tax that is supposed to be paid, and the only quirk in the system now is that it only gets collected by a certain type of retailer versus another type of retailer. So the fact that there's sort of this very obvious inconsistency and unfairness here, and the fact that you do have strong bipartisan support in the Senate, we're very hopeful that the House is going to take up the bill.
I want to go down the list of impacts, who it impacts and how. Let's start with the small businesses. They've been complaining a lot about this particular bill, saying that it really could affect their profit margins. What is the impact to small businesses if this bill were to get passed?
Well, there is an exemption up to $1 million, so it's not going to hit all small businesses. And the fact is, it's a tax that a brick and mortar small business has to pay even if they have one employee. So in fact, again, it's really about leveling the playing field. There are obvious issues about collection and about putting too much burden on small businesses. But the way the technology is today, those can be worked out. States are obligated under the law to provide software to online retailers in their states. And in fact, it's time, as the internet is growing, which we think is a great thing, it's time to start crafting a set of rules that are going to do away with the obvious disparities that exist. As the internet gets bigger, the time to deal with it's now.
Let's talk about big businesses. Amazon, obviously a very big one, but also brick and mortar companies like JCPenney's and Macy's and Target and Walmart. They also now sell items online as well. What's going to impact going to be for big businesses? Do they really benefit?
Well, it's really not an issue of trying to benefit one type of business over another. It's really about saying, look, there are products and services that are sold on the internet, and they're sold in brick and mortar facilities. We're not trying to control how the economy develops. It's obvious that the internet sector and the economy is growing. We're saying let's have everybody compete, large and small, online, offline, with the same rules. And that's really what the legislation is about. And at the end of the day, as you've already indicated, there are big businesses and small businesses on both sides of this. It's really not about benefiting one type of business over another. Let's
talk about the consumers, the impact to the general consumer. You and I buy tennis balls or basketballs or golf balls on the internet. What's the impact to consumers?
Well, in fact, consumers will probably get charged sales tax that they're not paying now. The interesting thing is that all of us, when we buy something on the internet, are legally obligated to report that, and most people don't do that. So yes, there will be an impact, but again, it's about saying, look, we're not going to favor one type of retail establishment over another type of retail establishment. As the internet's becoming more ubiquitous, more used by people, I think it's an opportune time to say we're not going to create these distinctions. So many products and services are available on the internet now that it would just be unfair to other sectors of the economy if we allowed that to continue to grow without everybody paying the same amount of tax as everybody else.
John, just quickly, the impact to companies like eBay, where a lot of times it's person to person, it's you selling an item to me.
Well, again, there is the $1 million exemption. So while ultimately it's probably true that everybody should be collecting sales tax, and this first step, while this gets implemented and while it gets worked out, is going to exempt the smallest businesses, and we think that's a good thing. It's a transition policy. But again, there's no reason that someone selling on eBay, and by the way, we encourage that. We think it's a phenomenal opportunity for entrepreneurs to sell. There's no reason that person should be getting a benefit that someone who's running a brick and mortar establishment doesn't get.
John Arensmeyer, founder, CEO of Small Business Majority, thank you very much for joining us on this very important topic.